So governance became increasingly secular and shifted to administrative hierarchies and bureaucratic management during the transformational era. So, because previously it had been more so laymen who were in charge of the universities. The president's exercise of presidential power varied among different institution types. Some were autocratic, others developed hierarchical management systems. But the strongest presidents were innovators who converted small colleges into great universities. The administration during the transformational era, their rise of, excuse me, the administration was also a bureaucracy, but the faculty resisted this type of bureaucratic format, and instead they were more democratic. And so from that was the establishment of academic senates. Also, student affairs developed as a separate category. Then there's also different influences on the universities, such as the private grants that different colleges and universities receive. Also, the Northeast Association of Colleges and Secondary Schools dates from 1885. So the accreditation boards were another influence on universities in terms of policies and what they needed to really be a university. And then the state government played an integral role in the foundation of the universities and colleges in terms of funding. They play more of a role than the federal government. So finally, we'll look at finances in the transformational era. And this is just a graphic to show how financing in the university has changed over the years from 1907 to 2012. So, there's been significant changes in the financing. So back in 1907, a little over 20% came from investments, endowments, and donations. And then with the student contributions, they were around 60%. And then the state government gave a lot in terms of contribution. But as you can see, to 2012, it's very small. It's been significantly reduced. So, going on with finance during the transformational era, philanthropy was essential in the formation or conversion of private universities, but also the donors' interests and the needs of the institution had to be balanced. So there was a lot of big businessmen and women who were donating to the universities at the time, like John Rockefeller. But so then the fundraising became organized, and so then they weren't as dependent on single fortunes. Also, endowments and appropriations during the transformational era. State legislators began committing funds on a regular basis to public institutions, but the income was varied per student, depending on the institutional type. Private institutions also began to build their endowments through donations. And then during the Great Depression, financing suffered, and so the state legislators did not or were not able to commit as much funds as they had previously. And then finally, with the outcomes during this era, this is what really came about from the era. Community pride was a continued effect as it had been in previous eras. Also, something new that came about was contribution to the war effort during the war wars. Research in natural sciences grew partly because of the war, and then research in agriculture took longer to develop. Professionalization of numerous occupational groups accelerated, as I stated earlier, with the onset of its elective system and other vocational courses being offered that came about. College role in assisting students to enter society accelerated, partly because of the college as a way of life theme that emerged. And then the old liberal arts emphasis was not abandoned, but the vocational courses grew alongside it. College as an economic generator came to the fore. There was many critiques and commentaries at the end of the chapter regarding the transformational era. Some of it having to do with the expansion of the elective system and not really having a goal during that time. But so you can check that out towards the end of chapter 3. So, of course, the main reference is our book, The Shaping of American Higher Education. And so, thank you for your attention.